Looks good to me.
Okay, perfect.
So I'll
Wonderful.
give you next. I just a little bit of housekeeping for everybody if you already went over this, but I do have my chat open, so feel free to drop in questions as we go, and I'll try to save a few minutes at the end to take any questions, or we can have an open chat too. I love it. I love an ask the chef moment. So throw what you got at me. Let's see if we can stump me today. But I'd love to try to help with any food waste questions, meal planning, whatnot. So in my presentation today, we're going to go over my personal favorite reasons to reduce food waste. I've been talking about reducing food waste since about 2017. So these are the ones that crop up for me that are my favorite reasons and keep me motivated and are very exciting when I am able to connect with other people on that. I also want to share my 4 commonly wasted foods that I think are super delicious, and we can talk about some ways to prepare them. And then lastly, one of the things that I'm sort of a specialist in is getting people to meal plan. Meal plan is the best way to reduce food waste at home, but I talk to so many people about it, and there are a lot of common mistakes that I see people making in their meal planning that cause them to not want to continue doing it. So maybe you'll be like some of these people I've seen, and maybe talking about these common mistakes can help you avoid them and make better meal plans that you can actually stick to, which will make your life easier, more smooth, less stressful at mealtime. So we'll end with that today. Sound good? Okay. So just a little background. If I don't know if Sophia went over this all, but just to show you real quickly, I'm a chef, so I'm coming into the reducing food waste sphere from a culinary sphere. So my first business was personal chefing and meal delivery. I had a large catering company in San Francisco from about 2010 to 2015. It was really big. Like I had 8 cooks working for me, and we catered probably 3 or 4 meals and events every single day. And before that, I was a personal chef, so it was a little bit smaller, but I have cooked a lot of food, and I've always mostly been self-funded, very mom and pop style. So if I sold an event for $400, that was all the money we had to produce that event. So for me, reducing food waste was at first literally just a way to stay in business. If we were throwing away the food that we bought, I would have ran out of money and my business would have gone belly up. But then through the years, I started learning about the environmental impacts of food waste and how dealing with food both in restaurants on a commercial scale and also at home and in our grocery stores is really an amazing way to take action against climate change. So as I sold my business at the end of 2015, I went to work for a food tech company where they were the opposite of self-funded. They had raised almost $200 million to scale their food tech company. And truly, they could not have cared less about wasting food or their environmental impact. All they wanted to do was change the meal delivery sphere, but without a nod to the bigger picture. So that was what really solidified my next steps in saying, okay, I care about both of these things. I have a very unique background and perspective on where we can go with meal planning and meal delivery. And I knew then that I wanted to help the planet, and that what I wanted to talk about going forward was not just cooking nice food for people who could afford it, but how can I really help people where they're cooking at home or where they're shopping in grocery stores, really make a difference and factor in, how do I get dinner on the table every night without being too stressed or going crazy, but also how can I do that while thinking about sustainability. So my solution was to come up with Ends and Stems, which is a meal planning platform that helps people reduce food waste. So basically it's nice recipes. It's $14 a month, so it's pretty affordable. And I will give you 3 recipes every week that ideally fit together like a puzzle to effortlessly reduce, especially the perishables you buy. It's not perfect because I'm limited by technology, but I think what I lack in AI, like in some future world someday, like the app will have AI that can say, oh, did you make steamed broccoli today? Then how about making broccoli and empanadas or broccoli soup, or how about making a pasta sauce that have broccoli? And then it would kind of help you do that. So I kind of put it together manually, but it's still really, really helpful to people. And I think what's most helpful to the hundreds of people that have signed up over the years is that it gives you ideas of what to cook. It's that meal planning piece. I also have a digital course that helps families work with their kids who are picky and helps them figure out how to plan foods and all of that. So those are the things that I do today. And I put my TikTok and my Instagram handles at the end because I also just make videos about reducing food waste. Okay, we'll go to the next slide, please. All right, so let's get into the fun stuff. Okay, my personal favorite reasons to think about food waste. Number one, it saves time and money. So I've talked to thousands and thousands of people in various ways over the years. Sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's personal one-on-one. And the one thing that is so common is life is super hard and busy nowadays. And the pandemic made that harder. I think that's just a universal for whatever you do, whatever you're interested in. But reducing food waste saves you time. If you think about it this way, you've already purchased this food, you have brought it home. So that food is easier for you to eat, and it saves you time from having to go purchase new food and then think about how to cook that. So at that very universal level, reducing food waste saves you time. If you have a fruit bowl that has a banana sitting in it that is going brown, you have half a cucumber in your produce drawer, and you are currently hungry, the fastest and easiest thing to do to solve that hunger is to eat that food that's already sitting there. So if nothing else, next time you walk by your fruit bowl and you grab that banana and you eat it, you have taken the world's tiniest climate action right there just by eating the banana that's already on your table. And then you can feel good about that and, move on from there. And it also saves money. I don't care how much money you have. They always say like the wealthiest people have a lot of money because they don't spend it frivolously, because they do protect how much they have. So if you have already purchased food and brought it into your home, even if it's, again, a 45-cent banana, that adds up over time. And, the current statistic is always changing, but it's roughly around $2,100 a year that the average family of four throws away in edible food. So even if it's a banana today and some lettuce tomorrow and some spinach or leftover rice next week, it adds up over the course of the year. And much like when I had a restaurant and we were buying $50,000 worth of food every month, it's not, you're very rarely throwing away like a clear giant pile of money, right? If you were throwing away $200 worth of food every week, that would be an easy problem to fix because it's so big and visible. But what's happening is a slow, steady leak. So at every meal, every snack, throughout every day of the year, you're throwing away a little bit to equal that $2,000 a year. But if you have a family of four, $2,000, that's a couple nights in a hotel. That's maybe plane tickets somewhere. That's a big Christmas present. That's a really, nice upgrade and a new pair of shoes for everybody and then some. So it really does add up. So that is probably the number one reason that I think affects everybody's life. Number two, personal favorite reason, when you come up with a surprising recipe with something that you might have otherwise thrown away, it's very delightful. It is a moment that is not just, oh, here's pasta with marinara for dinner tonight, but here's pasta with mushrooms that were getting soggy and spinach that was going slimy, and typically I throw that away, but I turned that into a sauce with brown butter and the rest of this lemon and Parmesan, and it tasted amazing, and I feel really good about having gone through that. Far and away, when people message me on Instagram or write me an email to tell me that they thought of me in the kitchen, it's almost always because they surprised themselves and turned something that they typically would have thrown away into a delightful recipe. And I love that. And that is, I think, what makes you next time want to do it again. And then number three, the climate is in crisis. Whether you're thinking about it, whether you're currently driving an electric car or taking any actions or writing to your Congress people, it's in crisis. And when I think about, there's always the thing that goes around on Instagram, how, it's like 70 companies that are polluting the world and making, the biggest piles of pollution and driving climate change and all of that. It's very upsetting and frustrating to sit here in my little house going, what can I do? We're all strapped to this planet that's hurtling in a potentially scary direction. It's scary just to sit back and do nothing. And reducing food waste is a real beneficial thing that we can do, and we can all do it right now. So, back to that banana that's sitting on your counter or that box of spinach in your fridge. It's not going to save the world if you eat it versus throw it away. That in itself is not enough. We absolutely need systemic change, and we need bigger changes than that. But it does count and it does matter. And if we start with a little toehold, like not throwing away those bananas and actually using up that spinach that we know is going to throw away, that is flexing the muscle, and you are learning to take action. And from there, you talk to your kids about it. You talk to your in-laws about it. You talk to your neighbors about it. And from there, positive action feels good. It gets us engaged. And from there, the actions that we feel comfortable taking can grow and grow and grow. And that's how we're going to get systemic change. Because then when those bigger climate action bills are on your voting ballot in November, or when your city council wants to do something that's actually going to change something at a systemic level, you have practiced the action and you're already versed in it, and you feel good about and confident about taking those bigger actions. And personally, I'd rather go down swinging than just sitting here and feeling like I have no control over what's happening to my future or my kids' future. So reducing your household food waste is this teeny tiny little way that really truly matters, and it can add to change within your communities, and it can add to change within you that you can feel really confident about. Those are my 3 favorite ways. Okay, next slide, please. If anybody has a favorite reason that I missed, drop it in the chat. I'd love to see it, and we can talk about that. So now 4 of my favorite foods that are often overlooked. Potato peels, probably the least overlooked of the ones on my list. But I want to bring it up because in my life, I love potatoes. Give me any potato, any type, any day of the week, and I'm a happy gal. And except for Thanksgiving Day, I literally never take the peels off. I eat any of the peels anytime. I think they're delicious. They're full of nutrients. They're full of fiber. And it saves time not to peel them off. For some reason in my mind, I do a very classic Thanksgiving. That's like the only day of the week I really want like a creamy mashed potato dish. So when I peel them off, my favorite thing to make, I've sort of illustrated it in 3 pictures here, starting with the one on the top left and then moving to the right and then moving down below. So I call this chef snack. I make it on Thanksgiving Day or anytime if I were to make other mashed potatoes. So you basically just take the peels, you toss them with a little bit of olive oil to coat, spread them out so they're not overlapping too much, sprinkle with salt, and then roast them in the oven at about 400 degrees until they are salty and crispy. And they basically taste like amazing homemade potato chips. And then I usually serve them with just like a sour cream and onion dip, or you could do like Greek yogurt and dried chives. And they taste amazing, especially fresh out of the oven when they're really hot and crisp. So if you're making mashed potatoes and working long hours in the kitchen to pull off a meal, definitely make chef snack. You can also do this with carrot peels and sweet potato peels as well. And you can even do a combo on the plate and they taste super, super delicious. But the other thing you can do with this is put it on a salad topping. So think of doing like a old school wedge salad with a ranch dressing and bacon bits, which is also sort of like a classic potato skin. But then you put some of these on the top for like an extra crispy bit is really, really tasty. I also love adding potato peels to my stock. This is not a classic French technique because what it does that a classic French chef would dislike, but that I love, it makes your stock very creamy. It gives it like a starchy consistency. So if you're making something like a ramen or a mushroom soup, even like a tomato soup, I love the texture of that starchiness whether or not I put potatoes in the soup or not. It's a way to add a creamy texture to your soup without adding cream. And then obviously, just as I said, you can mash your potatoes with them on, or roast your potatoes with the skins on with salt and pepper. And as long as you scrub the skins, I use a little vegetable brush, they taste amazing. Yes, yay, chef snack. Okay, next slide, please. My second favorite overlooked food. Okay, this is probably top of my list. I didn't do these in any particular order, but cauliflower leaves and stems. So in this picture, kind of towards the bottom, you can see the cauliflower leaves, and towards the top, you can see the core and the stems. Whenever I roast cauliflower, and I do mean whenever, every single time, I always use the core, the stems, and the leaves. They taste amazing, and it's more in line with maybe a cabbage than something delicate like spinach. So if you're just chopping up cauliflower and roasting it, you can just go ahead and put the stems and the leaves right in the oven. The leaves get really, really crispy and a little bit bitter. And then when you toss that all together and serve it with the roasted cauliflower, it's delicious. You could also, if that's a little too intense for you, you can also use this bowl pictured here in soup. So maybe you're making like a leek and cauliflower soup, or even a minestrone. You can toss in the core and the leaves. The core, in this picture, it's kind of cut into larger pieces, but I would cut the core into slightly smaller pieces because it will take a little bit longer to cook than the rest. This makes a great stir fry. It tastes amazing with, like, you know, a teriyaki stir fry sauce. And I actually was just watching a woman make a TikTok video about warm salads for winter. So any winter vegetable turned into a warm salad, I think, is really cozy and hearty. So what I would do with something like the cauliflower leaves is think of like a classic, my German grandmother used to make like a German potato salad with a hot vinaigrette with either onions and whole grain mustard, maybe bacon, maybe not. And you could put that on roasted potatoes, or you could even just leave the potatoes out and do that same style, but using cauliflower leaves and stems. So it'll be kind of wilty, but warm, very vinegary. It's really, really yummy. Okay, next one, please. Celery leaves. So this is one of my biggest pet peeves. When I walk through the grocery store and see when they're just selling like the internal stalk of celery, and they've chopped off all the leaves and all the outer stalks of celery, that stresses me out because, first of all, I want the whole thing. And where are they sending that? Hopefully they're sending it to somebody to cook with. Sometimes that's happening, but we don't really have a lot of insight into every specific brand. But celery leaves, like the head of celery pictured at the bottom, that is my favorite part. It's so good. And there's so many different ways to use those celery leaves, which are the outside and the top leaves, and then also inside where they're very tender and pale green, almost yellow. So the picture on the top left is a salad that is almost exclusively using celery leaves. So you can just use them that way, where you would literally replace any other green, making a salad out of the leaves. You could also use them like the picture on the top left, where the very internal tender leaves are being used as a garnish more than as a salad itself. That picture is also of like a stir fry. So maybe you're making like a vegetable stir fry. Maybe you're making like a cashew chicken stir fry. If you have celery left over, or you have celery leaves, you can toss that in. I would add them at the end so they just get a little bit warm and wilted, but they bring a really nice, bright herbal flavor. It's really, really common in Chinese cooking to use big pieces of celery and celery leaves like that. And I love taking that method from Chinese cooking and then using it all throughout. They also make a great taco topping, or like a slaw. Like maybe you're making, let's say, one of the dishes that I go to a lot with my family is like a scrambled egg taco. Using the leaves mixed with pickled onions or chopped tomatoes makes a really great, bright flavor component on the top of tacos. You could again use the darker green leaves like you would saute spinach. So maybe you take a few thin slices of garlic, hot olive oil, and throw in a big bunch of celery leaves. just with a little bit of salt, and serve it on its own as a side dish. So celery leaves. Oh, and then of course, in heartier salads, like non-leafy lettuce salads, like tuna salad, chicken salad, pasta salad, I always make mine very, very heavy with celery leaves if I have a lot of them to use up. So don't overlook those celery leaves. And we'll go on to the fourth one, please. And the fourth one is, oh no, wasn't there a fourth one? Celery leaves, cauliflower, potato. Did I only do 3? Or maybe I only did 3. That's okay. We still have plenty to cover. Okay, beautiful. Fourth one. Again, in the chat, if anybody has any scrappy bits that they want to share or throw out there that they love using, I would love to hear them. So go ahead and pop those in. I feel like carrot tops are always really popular, but I don't feel like most people are getting carrot tops at home, which is the reason that I don't think it's the most overlooked in your home, because they're not often coming home. Okay, so we're not going to go into my full meal planning. Oh, beet greens. Yes, beet greens is a fantastic one because you do bring those home a lot. My grandfather's favorite vegetable in the whole wide world was not beets, but beet greens. I love, love, love beet greens. They taste like Swiss chard, but you get them for free if you buy them at farmers markets. So I love using those. And in addition to beets, yes. Okay, so when I talk to people about meal planning, I have this sort of quick 10-step process. 10 steps, I know it doesn't sound quick, but steps 8, 9, and 10 are just shop, cook, and eat. So they barely count as steps. But if you want a meal plan to reduce food waste and also to save time and stress, we need to have these top 7 steps. So a lot of people think meal planning is shop, cook, and eat, or maybe save and print recipes. So maybe you're talking about step 6 through step 10. But I want to go all the way back up to step 1. When you're meal planning, the key to reduce food waste is to check your fridge. So don't even start thinking about what you're going to cook until you check your fridge. Then check your calendar, and we're going to talk about that in 1 second. Ask yourself and your family about your cravings. Have you recently been craving tacos? Now that I've said tacos 3 times, I bet you're all craving tacos. So you're going to want to put that on your meal plan next week. But you want to think about, what does your week look like and what have I been in the mood for eating? Have warm salads been sounding good to you because you saw a TikTok video or because the weather is turning cold? So you want to check in with how you're feeling so that you can write a good meal plan. And then when you write a good meal plan, that is key to reducing food waste, because your meal plan will dictate what you buy at the grocery store. So if you're purchasing things that aren't connected to a meal plan or are totally out of line what you've been in the mood to eat, then you're not going to follow through on your meal plan. You will over purchase and throw food away. So then steps 4 through 7 to save time and stress. Jot down ideas is not just for meal planning in the moment, but throughout your week. I save a folder on Instagram. So if I see beautiful recipes, I actually save it. And then I put that in a folder, say for upcoming meal plans. And I also have a notes app on my phone. If I'm out and about or just happen to think of something that sounds delicious, I will jot that down. It's much easier to come up with ideas naturally throughout your week than if I were to point at you and say, Sophia, quick, name 4 amazing dishes for dinner. And your brain just freezes. You can't think of anything suddenly. But throughout your week, you'll think of ideas. So if you are going to write your meal plan from a recent list of ideas, then it's much, much easier. My son yesterday was talking about, he's almost 5. So, in response to nothing, he was just randomly talking about how much he loves pancakes. So in that moment, we thought, hey, we haven't had pancakes in so long. Let's do breakfast for dinner and have pancakes for dinner. But if I didn't write that down, the next time I go to the grocery store, I probably would have forgotten that tiny little conversation. So jot down ideas, come up with whatever system works best for you so that you're always jotting down ideas. And then when it is time to meal plan, you check your fridge. I might see, oh, you know what? I actually have bacon. I totally forgot. That goes great with pancakes that I have on my list. And then I can check my calendar to see Wednesday's super busy. But Thursday, we're all home early. So let's make pancakes with bacon on Thursday. And that is the way to meal plan so that you can actually stick with it and to reduce food waste. Okay, so move to the next one, please. Okay, I'm going to go through the 3 meal planning mistakes, but I could easily talk about this for the next 2 hours. We have 5 minutes. So if anyone wants to drop in any questions, please do. And I have a slide at the end that has my Instagram. I welcome questions and comments on Instagram or via my website. You can email me anytime. I genuinely love to hear from people, but also it helps me make new videos and come up with topics to talk about. So please feel free to reach out anytime and drop in any questions if you have them. Ice cube tray. I love that trick. Freezing things in an ice cube tray is really, really smart. Okay, so top 3 mistakes. Next slide, please. Yes, I love the leftover night. So on the meal plan, in my mind, meal planning is not just I'm going to cook 7 new recipes this week, because the top mistake is being aspirational on your meal plan. Your meal plan is not a place to set new goals or family habits. If you're feeling like, I really wish we cooked more often, let's make a meal plan and come up with 7 new recipes that are all beyond what I currently am doing, you will bail and you will quit on your meal plan. And then you will come to me and you will say, meal planning is not helpful to me. Don't be aspirational on your meal plan. You need like a different document to be aspirational. Be really honest. So to Lori's point about having a leftover night, my meal plan will literally 1 night a week say leftover night. I will put on my meal plan takeout. That counts as meal planning, and that's how you stick with it. And by having a meal plan you stick with, you can effortlessly reduce your food waste. If you want to start new family habits or start cooking more, you need to deal with that differently and then plop those things into your meal plan in a way that you can actually stick with. Maybe only increase 1 night where you're cooking from scratch per week. And also putting the leftover nights on your meal plan help you tie it into what your life really looks like. It helps you tie it into your calendar. Okay, next slide, please. The second biggest meal planning mistake I see is not having a backup plan. So by and large, probably the second biggest thing that people tell me about meal planning isn't helpful to them is that their emotions change. They get home and they were going to make, let's say, a roast chicken, and then they don't feel like eating that anymore. So you need to have a plan planned for when you need a backup plan. So I do this by what I call ABC recipes. Always loved, basic, and convenient. So in my family, I mentioned that's scrambled egg tacos. I can make it in 5 minutes. We always have eggs. We always have salsa and tortillas in my house. I can make that dish literally at any time. It's basic, convenient, and always loved. So I always recommend that you have a list of maybe 5 to 10 always loved, basic, and convenient ABC meals written down so that when you go grocery shopping, you always have those. Your ABC meals can literally be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with carrot sticks. That's great. On a soccer practice night, I have 2 little kids. If I can't execute on what my plan was, there's no shame in serving them peanut butter and jelly sandwich with carrot sticks and apple slices. That's great. Everyone's going to be fine. And that means whatever you had planned for that night moves to the next night. And if your emotions change or your schedule change, you get called into a late meeting, by having that backup plan, you can instantly like switch to something else, and your brain doesn't have to do the work of thinking about what's for dinner twice. It's bad enough you have to think about what's for dinner 365 days a year. If you're doing it twice for 1 night, now you're thinking about dinner more than there are days in the year, and that's just too much. Nobody has time for that. Okay, so last meal planning mistake that I see is ignoring the connection between waste, mind changing, like I just talked about, and exhaustion. If you are looking at the clock, it's 3 p.m. and you're going, oh, what's for dinner? What's for dinner? What's for dinner? And then you're like, okay, I'll just make pasta. You've already gone through that process. If you're driving home and you're like, you know what, I really don't feel like pasta anymore. I'm so tired. I don't feel like making it. And then you start thinking of something else, you're doing the work twice. At the end of the day, or at the end of the week, it will be faster to make a good, smart meal plan that is tied into your family's actual life and calendar that you can stick with, because then you can do all the work at once when your mind is fresh. You can think through all of the foods that you have in your house so that you're cooking what you already have. You're saving time, you're saving money. And that way you don't have to think about dinner more than once per day. So if you are wasting foods, you're changing your mind, which is going to lead to more foods being wasted. That is actually making you more exhausted. It's not the meal plan that's making you, do another chore. The meal plan should actually be a way to alleviate chores from your dinner time, what's the word I'm looking for? Process the other 6 days a week. So meal planning with reducing food waste in mind. I see Lori's comment again. I love the 3-ring binder. I will take any final questions. But I've talked to so many people about meal planning and asked if they print recipes or save them online. A staggering number of people still print recipes online and save them in a three-ring binder, even with all of the apps and stuff out there. So I'm a huge fan of using whatever system works best for your family. Pinterest, have a certain folder for ideas. These are all, library for cookbook is amazing. And then maybe you can photocopy them and put those in a binder so that you can kind of keep them together. But if you do have a pile or a binder, make sure you edit it and maybe even change it out seasonally so that you could like take your top 20, so that basically what you want to do is limit the number of choices you have. If you have a 3-ring binder or a pile or a folder of recipes that gets to the point where it just has 600 ideas in it, you will again get to that decision fatigue point. So whatever you're doing, maybe go through it seasonally and pull out a bunch of things that look like a good idea so that your list of ideas to choose from is relatively small. So again, you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, check me out on my website. Please reach out and say hi. Let me know if you have any questions. I share lots of ideas and tips, and I love to hear from you from there. But if you're going to do one thing, try to write a meal plan and try to start based on your family's calendar, what you've been craving. And if you have kids or other people in your household, make sure you check in with them. I do it in the car on the way to school. What's everybody feeling like? Don't take it all on your own, because you have to get everybody's cravings, and tie your upcoming week to the busyness of your calendar, where you're going to be, what your family is in the mood for, and then set a meal plan that is not aspirational, but you can actually pull off and stick to it. Thank you all for the comments and questions in here. Lots of good stuff. Let me know how those meal plans go.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of your wonderful ideas. This is incredible.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, folks. Happy meal planning.
Thanks, Allison.